The way I build my world is... I suppose absent-minded would be a pretty good description. Whenever I enter a world in the Maker, I don't really have a clear-cut idea of what I want to do, just a vague general concept. So I start building what I know that I want to make, and then I just make things up as I go along. Maybe there's a certain part that, just doesn't work. So then I change it, or I look at the world and think it's too empty. I need to add something, and then I do. I actually really like building things myself. So I'll always try to, sometimes I kind of forget that there are pre-made structures in the Maker because I'm so insistent on building things on my own. I don't know, I like the freedom of creativity that you get when you just build the buildings yourself. That said, I appreciate that the structures exist, because sometimes you just don't want to have to build a village with every single house made from scratch. And even so, even if the structures are pre-made, you can modify them if you want. So even with the structures, you can still create your very own unique village. And of course, there are lots of different buildings to choose from, and you can decide the layout by yourself and all things like that. So it's all part of the creative expression, I think. And of course, I love making characters. It's really fun actually to just sit there and think, okay, what face do I want to use today? What hair? What skin color? What clothes? I mean, there is nothing stopping you from having a character walk around without clothes. And then you can, pretend that that's just the way things are in this village. Or maybe they are, just a little bit odd. Or maybe the people in the village don't have that as standard, but also they don't care because, hey, they're not hurting anybody. And of course it's also fun with the masks, because you can pretend that instead of wearing masks it's an actual wolf person or an alien or things like that. And of course the masks look pretty neat too. I think, however, one of the things I like to create the most is dialogue. I like writing. I've always liked writing. So when the time comes for me to create some dialogue for characters, for one thing, dialogue from NPCs just makes the world feel more alive. And of course, the fact that you have complete freedom over what the NPCs say and the responses you want to make can create some pretty funny scenarios. They don't even have to be quest hooks, it can just be idle dialogue. Or maybe you want the NPCs to change their dialogue along the way. Then you can do that. By using triggers, you can just change things in the world as you go along. So yeah, you use the triggers to, make things change in the world. And it's fun because triggers can trigger other triggers, so you can trigger a whole bunch of changes at once, which is pretty interesting. It's also it's interesting with triggers because you can just use them to change everything in your game world, and I think that's really neat. And then of course you can basically use triggers to trigger other triggers, and just keep going like that. Just to make the world feel more alive. You don't even need to create quests to do it, though of course creating interesting quests can also be pretty fun. You don't need quests to make our world seem more alive, though quests do give world a bit more of a purpose, I guess. But that all depends. Sometimes people just like to explore, and that's fine, isn't it? Maybe not all worlds need to have quests to be purposeful. Maybe sometimes having a world where players can just interact with each other. Yeah, that should be enough, shouldn't it?